introduction. Good afternoon. Dr. Russell, Dr. Prakash, faculty and staff, students, alumni. I am delighted to be here, and I want to express my deep appreciation to the College of Arts and Sciences for inviting me and honoring me today. And I want to congratulate all of the award recipients. And I thank all of you for being here to share this occasion. I think most of you here would agree that Tuskegee is a special place. I would say that it's unique. And the College of Arts and Sciences, I believe, is the heart of the university. As I have said many times, my connection with Tuskegee began long before I enrolled as a student so many years ago. I grew up in Alabama during the Civil Rights Movement, a turbulent period, as you know. Racial prejudice and discrimination were pervasive in the South. Discrimination existed in other parts of the country as well, of course, but it was particularly virulent and oppressive in the South at that time. And opportunities for blacks in the larger society were extremely limited. But African Americans are never without resources. The Civil Rights Movement was a struggle for justice and equality for African Americans. But blacks had other resources older than the movement. Among them were their families, their churches, their clubs and associations, and their HBCUs. These colleges were beacons of hope, offering educational, cultural, and social opportunities that blacks were unable to find anywhere else. My family lived only 40 miles from Tuskegee Institute, and my parents took advantage of Tuskegee's proximity. We would go to Tuskegee's football games, the annual Tuskegee Morehouse game, the Thanksgiving game between Tuskegee and Alabama State every year, and the homecoming games. But Tuskegee meant so much more than football games when I was growing up. For example, one of my earliest childhood memories is of my family driving to the campus to hear Thurgood Marshall speak in the old chapel. The first museum I visited as a child was the George Washington Carver Museum on this campus. When my mother was working on her master's at Tuskegee during the summer, my older brother and I attended summer school at Chambliss Children's House, which was Tuskegee's laboratory school at that time. One day during one of those summers, my brother and I were waiting for my mother to get out of class, and we walked into Armstrong Hall. For what reason, I don't remember. Perhaps we were looking for a water fountain. In any case, a man in a lab coat noticed us, came over, and struck up a conversation. And after he had chatted with us for a few minutes, he said something that captured our full attention. He told us that Tuskegee scientists had been participating in the effort to develop a vaccine for polio. Years later, I would learn more about Tuskegee's role in that effort. Tuskegee's vital role of producing and distributing HeLa cells, which would be used to test the effectiveness of the Salk vaccine. And I would remember that childhood encounter. When I eventually enrolled at Tuskegee at 16, all manner of new experiences unfolded. I was assigned to White Hall my freshman year, a building that had always captivated me with its clock tower and tall steps. It is still an architectural jewel on this campus, a campus with so much architectural character and beauty. It's no wonder Ralph Ellison and Albert Murray were inspired to write about it so eloquently. My undergraduate days at Tuskegee were not only enlightening, they were transformative. I had wonderful professors in the English department and in other departments, men and women for whom teaching was not just a profession, it was a calling. One of my favorite professors was sociologist and activist, Dr. Charles Gamillion, who was the lead plaintiff in Gamillion versus Lightfoot, a case many of you know, a case in which the Supreme Court ruled that officials in the city of Tuskegee had unconstitutionally redrawn the city's boundaries to ensure the election of whites. Dr. Millian was not only a passionate activist, he was a great teacher. Many of my professors were great teachers. I've been fortunate to have studied at some very good schools during my lifetime, including Tuskegee, and I have always maintained that some of my finest teachers were here. My experiences beyond the classroom during my undergraduate years were equally enriching. The artistic and cultural events which occurred every week, the distinguished and dynamic speakers who visited the campus. As I said, this was during the civil rights movement. Battles were being fought, history was being made, and my schoolmates and I felt that we were part of that history. During my senior year, I had the opportunity to hear Malcolm X speak in Logan Hall, and it was a revelation. He impressed me as someone considerably different from the figure portrayed by many in the media. At the end of that year, Dr. Martin Luther King delivered the address at my graduation, right outside this building on Whitehall's lawn. That occasion was the culmination of an amazing 4 years. Concerning my professional life at the university, it's impossible for me to overstate the fullness of that era, which spanned almost 4 decades. I witnessed and was part of the progression from Tuskegee Institute to Tuskegee University and the growth and development of the College of Arts and Sciences and the university as a whole. I served in a variety of capacities, but whatever the capacity, I always felt a strong sense of purpose, not just an individual purpose, but a shared purpose. I felt that everyone at the university, to some degree and in some way, was engaged in an intellectual and cultural undertaking that was not only important, but essential. When I reflect on my career at Tuskegee, a career that involved multiple roles and responsibilities, my mind is drawn expressly to the incredible students I encountered and the extremely capable and gifted colleagues with whom I worked. It was a privilege for me to be able to participate in Tuskegee's epic journey, and it has been an epic journey. Over the years, I've gained a deeper appreciation for that journey and for the vision, the intelligence, the wide-ranging agenda, and the resourcefulness of Booker T. Washington. He was an exceptional person, devoted to the mission of improving the lives of Black people, and his contributions are vast. The Rosenwald Schools, the National Negro Business League, National Negro Health Week, his support of intellectual development and practical training, his support of other HBCUs, using his personal resources to fight discrimination. And at the core of all his efforts was Tuskegee, for which he gave his life. So many dedicated and remarkable people, through tireless labor and courageous leadership, have continued and expanded the legacy Washington began. Hence, whatever pride we take in our accomplishments here or anywhere else should be mingled with humility, because we stand on the shoulders of others. Giants. Interestingly, wherever I have worked and studied beyond Tuskegee, I've almost always found a Tuskegee connection. When I taught at Fisk University, I reconnected with one of my Tuskegee professors, Dr. Stanley Smith, who had become a dean at Fisk. When I was studying for my PhD at the University of Michigan, I ran into Mr. James Woodson, Tuskegee's Alumni Affairs Director, who had taken a leave of absence to pursue a doctorate. When I was at the Harvard Radcliffe Institute, I was reacquainted with Peter Gomes, who had been a philosophy instructor at Tuskegee and had gone on to become a Harvard professor, a minister at Harvard's Memorial Church, and one of the nation's prominent preachers. He said to me that his years at Tuskegee were the making of him. If you are fortunate enough to be affiliated with Tuskegee as a student or a faculty or staff member, The school becomes a part of you that you carry with you forever. We are living in challenging times, and for those of us of a certain age, it can be disconcerting and frustrating to realize that we're still fighting many of the same battles we fought decades ago. But I have learned that ideals such as freedom and justice are not goals to be won absolutely for all time. Rather, the striving for justice, like the striving for excellence, is a continual pursuit. Tuskegee's narrative arc can teach us a great deal about persistent struggle and perseverance. And although at times our reach may exceed our grasp, the struggle goes on. May we all be inspired by Tuskegee's legacy and the Tuskegee spirit to continue to reach for excellence, to seek justice, to serve our communities, our nation, our world, and to make our ancestors proud, in spite of and even in terms of the challenges we face. For as Booker T. Washington wisely observed, it is only through struggle